What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Juice Toya podcast, brought to you by One Body Los Angeles. I'm your co-host, Juice.
And my name is Toya. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 15 of the Juice Toya podcast.
Oh, yeah,
we are back for another. This one's a fun one.
This one's a fun one. Pretty requested, not necessarily the topic, but a lot of you wanted to learn more about nutrition. So today we wanted to focus on that today, give you some insight on some common mistakes that are made within nutrition that we want to clear up. And hopefully by the end of this video, if this is a mistake or any of these mistakes that you're making, hopefully you can clear this up. And honestly, I think a lot of people underestimate how much nutrition affects your goals on a daily, monthly basis. So we're going to get into that. But first, we got some housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
All right.
You go first or me go first?
Go first.
Go
ladies
first. All right. So first of all, the Fresh Start program.
We're not going to talk about this enough.
We are on week 3 if you're doing the challenge. This is a 4-week program that can be done at any time.
Yep.
And there's 2 separate versions, a circuit style and a follow along only program. The follow along only, again, was 16 brand new follow along videos. Then the circuit style is 4 days a week, 3-day circuit style training, and one follow along. And then both programs include an optional 5th day that have been fun challenges that we've been incorporating. But the premise of the program is 4 days a week. It's a 4-week program, and it's been amazing. So far, we are seeing major results in strength. We mentioned this on the last podcast. So many people are giving the circuit program a try, which is amazing, especially if you know us from our follow along YouTube videos and that's the only thing you've done. The circuit style is different and it can be more challenging, but it is a challenge that makes you stronger, that produces more results. And so kudos to everyone who gave it a try. And then if you're doing the program right now and you finish the follow along, give that circuit style a try after. But both of these programs can be found either on our app or you can purchase them for a one-time purchase, and you don't need an app subscription. And we will post those purchase links as well as the app link in the show notes and description if you're watching. Correct.
So it's $30 for the follow along program if you want to just do a one-time purchase, and it is $20 for the circuit training program. So great price points. Again, honestly, I always say I think we should charge more for these, but again, we want to make it affordable for everybody. We want you all to be a part of this program and get the most out of it. So check it out. We'll link it in the show notes. And you can do this at any time. It doesn't have to be, even though we're hosting a challenge right now, you can do this later in the year. You can do this before the summer, whenever you feel. That's the beauty of a program. If you have a program, you can do it at any time, right? It just kind of leads you along the way. So.
And one more important thing about the programs, it comes with the nutrition guide, motivation guide, a modification guide. There are guides to help you along the program as well. And just like he just said, a lot of people don't understand how much nutrition impacts your goals. So that nutrition guide is very handy, and it comes with either one of the programs.
Cool. So next up, we got merch. Hello. If you haven't heard it enough, we got our OBLA Lululemon merch. Go check it out on the website. We got some inventory updated. So if you were missing out on some size, be sure to check it out. We got quite a few orders this week. So appreciate everybody. Shout out everybody who orders from us. And also we, if you didn't know, we like to write a handwritten note just to show you how much we appreciate you. So definitely go get your merch. We got some new stuff on the way. I know we keep saying that, but we're excited about it.
It is literally getting worked on as we speak. So literally in the next few days, we should have that back and then up on the website, and we are excited.
For sure. And then last but not least, we got some brand new YouTube videos. Some of these are videos that are within the challenge. So we got some brand new YouTube videos. If you're not doing the challenge or on the app, we got some new stuff coming out, as well as we're looking at implementing some different types of content on the channel as well, other than workouts. Look, we don't want to be just a workout only channel, because as we talk about a lot of different things in this podcast, everything, it's a lot more than that in regards to fitness. So check out the new YouTube content. We're excited about it, and we're dropping twice a week now. So we're trying to up our game in a sense of frequency. So if you're looking forward to more consistent content, we got you. So that's pretty much the housekeeping for today. And let's roll into it. I'm excited about this one. So.
Yes, same. So within this podcast, we wanted to talk about a lot of the common mistakes that are made. And we say common because they are very common. It's a lot of things that you don't know unless you ask, or you wouldn't know unless you are studying it. And a lot of things that even we did like mistake wise, before we got into studying nutrition and
even when
fitness.
we were.
Yeah, exactly. And so we wanted to make this to kind of show that you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to nutrition, there is trial and error. It takes time to figure out the type of foods that your body likes, the type of things that you react to. You might be intolerant to some foods that you ate every single day, and then all of a sudden your body just kind of doesn't like it anymore, you know? And so digestion can change. And so nutrition can be very tricky in that sense where it just takes some time to figure out what works for you and your body in terms of macro breakdowns and what makes you feel good. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today, some common mistakes and things that might help you to eliminate some of that trial and error.
Yeah, so we got 10 common things. There are a lot more, trust me. Like we get a lot of comments on a daily basis on our YouTube channel. We get a lot of messages on the app. And that's how we kind of came up with these 10 ideas, because these are just things we get asked on a frequent basis. So we figured if we cover these 10 things, like it should cover a lot of people who might be, you know, following these same mistakes. So we kind of want to clear the air here. So before we get into those 10 common mistakes, let's talk about, I think it's fair to talk about
mistakes
we made along the way. Like we both laughed about it. Like we both had like just our ideas about nutrition that were totally false, or things that we ate that we thought were something else, and it would completely ruin our goals. So like, what are some things, Toya, for you, some common mistakes that you made looking back on it now?
Yeah.
Like probably back then you were, conscious
no idea.
of it. Yeah.
One of the first mistakes I remember making it was my junior or senior year of track season, one of the two. And we were good. And I remember being like, yeah, I want to take this serious and like get faster and eat better. And I remember reading in I want to say it was 17 magazine. That was the first time I kind of read about like calories and being in a calorie deficit and really what that meant. And I remember seeing like eat lower calories if you want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Common. So I remember I would like look up the calories of certain foods, and I remember I think my mom made like chicken mashed potatoes and like a vegetable, and I read how many calories were in chicken breast, and it probably said like 200 calories, and a bowl of cinnamon toast crunch had 150. So you know what I ate for dinner? Cinnamon toast crunch.
Wow.
Keep in mind, I read the calories were 150. That probably said like half a cup, and I probably had two cups. So, and then like looking at it now, I'm like, oh my, you gave up protein and veggies and a good carb for sugar.
Yeah.
Like,
for the sake of calories.
For the sake of like, oh, it's less calories though, so I should lose weight.
Yeah.
And then another mistake I made, just kind of going back to the running, I remember I also ran cross country, and in the summertime I would run a lot to get ready for cross country season. And I remember I would go get fast food. So let's say I went to McDonald's and got a Big Mac. I would look up the calories in that food. I would eat it, and then I would go for a run until my watch told me I burned that many calories. So let's say the burger was 500. I would run until I'd burned 500 calories. Does not work that way. I was not burning off the Big Mac. But again, in my mind, I was like, oh, it's like I never ate it because I just burned off 500 calories.
And I think mentally, and we'll get into this, but mentally people think like I eat 500 calories and then I burn it. It's no longer in my system.
Yes, like, that's what I thought. That is exactly what I thought. No,
you're just burning calories that you already had, the energy you already had in your body. That is still processing inside of your stomach and your colon.
Storing as fat.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I kind of fell into that pool a couple of times too. Is that all? Like,
yeah, I think those are my big ones that I remember. Like now, when people say that, please don't feel like these are stupid questions, because even we, like now when our clients say that, or we have friends that are like, just go burn it off at the gym, we can correct them in a way that's like, unfortunately, it don't work that way. We've done the same thing. That's not how it works. But now we know better, and no one told me at that time, so I kept doing it until I was educated and was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, when it comes to anything, like there's no stupid question. That's why we don't want people to feel like, some people get intimidated, I think, especially on the Juice and Toya app, to ask us questions. So like we don't want anyone to feel like, oh, that's a dumb question. Why would you ask that? Like we want you to feel like, we made these same mistakes, like coming up. Like these are the same things that we thought were true that are not, obviously. So one thing for me, This is more sports related, but I underestimated the amount of protein that my body needed. And this is before tracking. This is before tracking calories and macros and all that stuff. But I found myself, and I mentioned this in another podcast. I found myself getting hurt a lot. And when you play football, you lift a lot of weights. It's a lot of wear and tear on your body, and a lot of times people just kind of associate that with just, we'll say, oh, I'm just injury prone.
Yep.
Right. I'm just like, that's just genetically injury prone. Like I'm just more.
It's a contact sport.
Yeah. I'm just more fragile than most people. But in reality, I wasn't eating enough protein to not only sustain the workouts, sometimes we did 2 a days. We'll work out in the morning and then in the evening, then have practice. That's a lot of activity. Yeah. Then you got wear and tear on the body at practice and games and stuff like that. So if you're not getting in proper protein on a daily basis, like your body will wear down. Those muscles will tear. Those tendons will get, very, rigid. So that was a big thing. And once I realized how much protein I need, I think at the time I needed to eat like 220 grams, which that's a lot of protein. It's kind of hard to get, especially if you don't have a huge appetite, which at the time I only ate like I only ate like lunch and dinner. Like I was a 2 meal a day. I'm still to this day, I kind of only eat 2 meals a day. So within those meals, I had to have at least 100 to 120 calories per meal, which is a lot of protein. I mean, sorry, I said calories. That is, oh my God, I would die.
It's a tiny meal.
100 to 120 grams of protein per meal, which is a lot. Like that's like 3 chicken breasts, especially if you're only eating 2 meals. So that was something that I made the mistake of. And once I cleaned that up, it was like night and day. Like I was performing better. I built more muscle. I wasn't getting hurt as much. Like I just felt the difference of how much protein made a difference in my body. Another thing I'll add on, this is another thing. I used to drink Gatorade like it was water. Like with every meal, like it was just like, because as an athlete back in the day, you just think, oh, it's a sports drink.
Right.
It's just, it's keeping me hydrated. It's helping my sports goals. But in reality, Gatorade is like more so for during performance.
Yeah.
So like if you're working out, that Gatorade is meant to replenish and hydrate during your workout. Those sugars, all that sugar that is in the Gatorade and all those sports drinks, that is meant to be in the moment. And I didn't learn that until later. I was just drinking 3 or 4 a day. And that's a lot of sugar and also a lot of sodium, the electrolytes. I was overdoing it with the electrolytes. So if you find yourself drinking sports drinks like they're water, essentially, that is a huge mistake. And that can be, one of the things that we can even add to this list that can kind of hold you back, especially if your goal is to lose some body fat, lose some weight. That can even bloat you, just the amount of sodium that are in sports drinks, right? You got that sodium.
And all the extra sugar. Some Gatorades, depending on the size, that's the sugar you need for an entire day.
Yeah. Multiply that by 4. So you got 120 grams of sugar in your body. So that was a big common mistake that I made. And again, it was like night and day. Once I kind of cleaned it up and really understood it. And we mentioned this before. It's all about education, right? Just educate yourself and understand what you're putting into your body. And then moving forward, you just have a better understanding of what you need to eat. So now that we've talked about just sort of our common mistakes, again, there are a lot of other ones. These are just the ones that kind of stick out to us that we obviously don't do now. But let's get into the 10 things. And these are not necessarily in a particular order.
No.
The first few are very important because we get asked these a lot, but no particular order. So don't feel like we're ranking these at all. So if you find yourself doing any of the following 10, hopefully, again, by the end of this, you'll understand it a lot more.
It gives you some insight into why it could be a mistake. It might also help you, again, eliminate some of that trial and error. Because can you imagine if I would have had proper meals or proper education? And I think about that often, like if I knew then what I know now. But that's the point. You learn as you grow and as you get older, right?
For sure.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so let's get into, there's 10 things. I don't know if we said 8 earlier, but there's 10
common mistakes.
There's 10 common mistakes. So the first one, underestimating or overestimating your food intake. And I think this is probably the biggest one because it's an umbrella under or over so many things. So if you're someone who is tracking, again, we've always said you do not need to be tracking forever. We don't recommend it. It sometimes can be good to help you see what you're eating, or if you're trying to get in more protein, tracking will allow you to see how much am I getting. And then once you've tracked for a little bit, you have an idea of like, how much protein you're getting in each day just by eyeballing, and you can eat more intuitively and listen to your body. But for the sake of this point, let's assume that you are tracking your calories.
I'll say, sorry to interrupt you. Think of tracking as a method of, like you just mentioned, education.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
tracking is just teaching you how, or teaching you what foods have what macros and calorie content, right? Don't look at, yes, if you need to track and just to kind of stay within a certain range, it'll help you understand that. But again, like you said, tracking isn't forever. Like it's almost impossible. You're not going to be able to track every day of the year of every food that you eat.
Yeah, because when you eat out, there's
have
no way to track
idea
that.
What's in that.
And that goes to this point. So when you're tracking, we actually just talked about this on our last live on our YouTube, where if you aren't weighing the food, you are not tracking correctly because measuring with a tablespoon is so different than weighing out the grams or ounces of that food.
Yeah.
And so let's say you're measuring with a tablespoon, you're like, all right, I've got 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, but you didn't fully scrape that off. And it's actually a tablespoon and a half, right? That's an extra 40 to 60 calories right there. And that's just with one time a day. Let's say you're doing that with condiments. Let's say that you are doing it with your proteins, your carbs, and things like that. You can easily be getting in an extra 500, 600, 700 calories a day. And then you're saying, well, I'm tracking my calories and I'm in a caloric deficit, but I'm not losing weight. And so the problem is you're not in a calorie deficit, but you really truly think you are. And I think that can be, and the same thing if you're trying to build muscle or put on weight.
Correct.
And you say like, I'm not putting on weight. I am eating more calories than I should be eating. And I don't understand what's going on. We may not be accurately tracking your food.
Yeah.
So that's one common mistake that we see very, very often. And this goes also with serving sizes.
Yeah, I was going to say portion sizes is huge.
Servings and portions. And so if you're looking at a food and you're like, oh, a serving size is 150 calories, but you're not seeing what that serving size is, you might look at a container and be like, oh, this is 150, but for how much?
Yeah.
So going back to that Cinnamon Toast Crunch that I ate, like I was just looking at, oh, if I eat a bowl, but what is a bowl? You know, like you have to really weigh out 2/3, because 2/3 cup may not be the same weight as using a cup.
And another mistake in the sense of like over underestimating food is, I think a lot of people also mistrack, like let's say for like rice, for example, a lot of times the serving size will say cooked or not cooked.
Oh yes, good point.
So if you measure, let's say a fourth a cup of cooked rice versus a fourth a cup of dry rice, those are two completely different things. That can be twice as much. You know what I mean? So same thing with protein as well. Sometimes serving size will say, cooked
chicken.
Yeah, cooked chicken, like 28 grams of chicken cooked versus raw, right? That's a big difference. When you cook a lot of the water out, which changes the weight of the food that you're eating. So pay attention to that too as well. It's very small, but it makes a big difference.
Oh, like hundreds of calories difference.
Yeah. So if it says cooked or raw, pay attention to that as well, because that can make or break your tracking for the day.
When you're putting that into whatever you're using to track, that's a very good point. Put that in raw or cooked, depending on how you're measuring it. And most people will measure it cooked, because if you weigh it raw, you don't know. I mean, I guess you could weigh it raw too, and it just like cooks down, but I don't know if you want to weigh it raw on the scale. However you want to do it.
Whatever you want to do.
But like a cooked rice, if you're going to eat the whole serving, then you can weigh it dry and then put it in if you're eating all of it. But I guess I'm saying sometimes we cook like rice or chicken and things in bulk. So you don't know how much you're going to eat out of that. But if you're cooking a piece of chicken and you want to weigh it raw because you know you're eating that entire thing, then it would be accurate.
I think it would be more realistic to say to measure everything cooked. It's just easier. You don't have to put raw chicken on your measuring cup or...
Yeah, and then if you cook more than you're going to eat, you don't have to worry about, and I got to reweigh it. So it just makes things easier. But again, if you want to weigh things raw, that works too. Just keep it consistent with what you're going to eat.
Yeah.
So
that's the number one word.
That's the number.
In any podcast we put out is going to be consistency. So that leads us to our next topic, which is macros. Okay, so if you don't know what macros is, it's basically the breakdown of calories, carbs, protein, and fat. Just generally speaking, there are 4 calories in a gram of carbs, there's 4 calories in a gram of protein, and 9 calories within 1 gram of fat.
Yes,
so
sir.
when you're tracking your calories, keep that in mind as well. And usually your fat content will be a lot less than your protein
because it's more calorie
because
dense.
it's more calories. So keep that in mind. So with that point, going back to my football days, when I first started learning, and we had a nutritionist on staff that we had that kind of taught us a lot about food and the importance of it. So that's when I kind of first learned about tracking calories. And that's when I learned that I was burning 3,500 calories on average a day, which is, at the time I was almost about 200 pounds, very muscular. And I was also trying to build muscle. So if you're burning 3,500 calories a day and you're trying to put on muscle, essentially, I almost needed to eat close to 4,000 calories a day. So of course I'm tracking my foods. I'm eating all type of stuff. I'm eating, college peanut butter and jelly, the top ramen, all that stuff,
man.
trying to calculate all these calories. And this is before my realization of protein and how much protein makes a part of all those calories. I was just focused on getting the calories in, which was great because I was getting in the food that I needed because of the energy I was burning. So I felt a lot better once I started to get that food content, but also it got to a point where I plateaued in a sense of how much I was progressing with my just building muscle in general and putting on weight. So when I understood that, I think she broke it down for me. And basically, I was only eating about 25% protein, which was awful.
Oh my goodness.
I was like 25% protein. I was like 50% like carbs and like 25% fat, something like that. And she basically flipped it. She was like, you need to be eating close to 50% protein, 25% carbs, and 20 to 25% fat. Once I understood how important the ratio of my macros and how much that played a role into not only the calorie content that I was consuming on a daily basis, but what it was doing for me in a sense of building muscle and recovery, that made a huge difference. And this can make a huge difference for you, especially whether your goal is to lose weight or to put on muscle or to even just build strength and recover from some of the strength workouts that you're doing. That ratio within those macros makes a big difference. When you're doing it right, it makes a huge difference.
Yes. And so this kind of goes back to our number one point. So let's say you are tracking correctly and you're still not reaching your goals properly. This goes down to, are you eating the correct macro breakdown? And the reason this is important is because not all calories are created equal. So a calorie, if you're trying to eat 1,500 calories, you can't just eat 1,500 calories and be like, oh, lost weight, because the breakdown of the food matters.
Yes.
It's so important. So let's say that at the end of the day, you have 200 calories left and you decide to eat 200 calories in Oreos, right? And let's say you haven't hit your protein goal for the day. That is not, or let's say you're eating like he was, majority of your calories are coming in from Oreos and carbs and fats and sugars, essentially, and you're not getting in your protein. At some point, your muscle is going to suffer for that. Your metabolism is going to suffer. Like, it's not the same to eat 200 calories in gummy bears as it is in broccoli. Let's look at a sugar. It's not the same to eat 200 calories in apples as it is in gummy bears.
Yes.
That apple has fiber. There are nutrients in that apple, whereas the gummy bears, there's nothing really that it can do for your body. It tastes good and it's good carbs. So looking at what calories you are consuming, while it might be important to be in a calorie deficit, I would fight that the calories you are eating are more important than that deficit, because your micronutrients matter also.
Let's talk about micro.
Within that breakdown. So let's call it a macro/micro breakdown. So your micronutrients are your vitamins, your minerals, all of those things matter as well. So a lot of times if a client is like, okay, I'm tracking, I'm not losing any weight, are you eating enough protein? What does your sodium level look like? How much sugar are you intaking? Because sodium can cause more water retention. So your weight may not be going down because now you're holding on to water. Are you inflamed because of the high content of sugar that you're eating, right? And so all of these things make a huge difference. And we keep saying you're eating too much carbs and fat, you also can be eating too much protein,
Yeah,
right?
that's true. It's
you
possible.
need to be getting in enough carbs also to sustain, but also enough fat. Fat plays very important role in your body. So I know the next question is going to be, what's a good macro breakdown? It really depends. It depends on your goals. It depends on your muscle mass. It depends on your genetics.
Body.
It depends on your fitness routine.
Yeah.
How much are you lifting? Are you a marathon runner?
Are you a football player?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. All of that plays a role. And this is why at the beginning we said it's trial and error, because sometimes it takes some figuring out what works best for you. I've kind of figured out I work best on a moderate carb, like a little bit higher carb, moderate protein, lower fat.
Yes.
That's where I feel my best. That works best with my performance. But I had a friend that was bodybuilding with me and she did so well on high fats.
Yeah.
Our diets were completely different when it came down to our nutrition plan for bodybuilding. So this is why in the last podcast we said you can't just like copy what someone else does, because your breakdown is your own.
Yeah. And I remember, I think I started off, I was 40% protein, 35% carbs, and 25% fat. And then over time, it transitioned. And again, this is when I was playing football. I was 50% protein, 30% carbs, and 30% fat. So again, it took some trial and error for me to figure out. It was more so a balance between me having enough energy to get through the workouts and also having enough protein to be able to sustain the workouts and be able to recover from the workouts. So, start at a baseline. I don't want to give you a baseline because it's different for everybody, but if you want some more insight on macros, again, we're going to do a whole podcast on macros eventually, but check out on the Juice Toya app. We have a nutrition guide that talks all about how macro breakdown affects your workouts, affects your recovery and all that stuff. And then again, along with your tracking, if you're tracking calories, make sure that you're tracking macros as well. I know a lot of people use, MyFitnessPal to track their calories. There's a macro breakdown within that as well that can show you the ratio. So if you look at all the calories that you ate for the day, look at that macro breakdown, because that can really bring a lot of things to the surface, especially if you're someone who has been following those workouts. You feel like you've been eating clean for the most part, but you're plateauing. You feel like you're not dropping the pounds or building the muscle that you want to. That macro breakdown will really just bring a lot of that to the light. I can't tell you how many clients that show me their MyFitnessPal. Like, look, I'm eating my broccoli, spinach, I'm getting my chicken in, my protein. And then I was like, well, you only got in 30% protein, you got 50% carbs, and you got 10% fat, or whatever the macro is, right? It's so... and that's usually where we kind of find the missing link. So for a lot of you, check those macros. I guarantee you that will probably be the thing that cracks the code for you.
One thing I forgot to say, this kind of goes back to number one, just him bringing up the tracking. If you're putting in your calories from your TDEE, do not include your exercise
in MyFitnessPal.
Don't add it in.
Correct.
Because that calorie number you got from your TDEE is already including your exercise.
Yes.
So this kind of just goes back to that under or overeating. When you put in the exercise, it gives you more calories to eat.
For sure.
And you don't want that because you've already included that exercise in your numbers. So that also leads to overconsumption.
Adding the activity level. Adding the activity level kind of only matters if you're more so trying to maintain.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
so if you're, burning 500 extra calories a day, and let's say your TDEE is 2,800 calories and you're trying to maintain, then it makes more sense to include your calories there, because you need to eat those 2,800 calories. But if you're trying to be at a deficit and you're adding those active calories to your MyFitnessPal, now that's an extra 500 calories not accounted for. And that can be another reason why you're not losing the weight or dropping the body fat.
Yeah, and keep in mind, how does MyFitnessPal know that 20 minutes of running you burned 100 calories, right? Like to know the amount of calories you burn, they would have to know your heart rate, your height and weight, your intensity during. So those are also very misleading calories. So don't add them in. Go off of your TDEE, whether you're maintaining, whether you're trying to lose, gain, whatever. find that TD for you, put that in, and do not pay attention
and
to
look
the rest.
for those verified sources of what you're tracking.
sir.
So a lot of times you'll see within MyFitnessPal, there are things that people manually add themselves that are included in that log. Usually the ones with the check mark, you'll see they are verified with the actual product. So be sure that you're using verified tracking as well. And sometimes it's not the case for every product. There's so many products out there on the market, but try to make sure those calories are verified, and then try to link it and match it up to what the actual product that you're using, right? So if it says, make sure it says, because sometimes you'll see a product and they'll say a serving size is 150 calories, and then on MyFitnessPal it might say 170, right? So make sure those kind of match up too.
Correct
as well.
brand,
again, it's only
everything.
20 calories, but again, you're doing it. That can add up. So, all right, so let's go into number 3. So we talked about under and overestimated food. We talked about the macro breakdowns is very important. Those are top 2. You get those down, you figure those out. I think you'll be pretty solid. But here's a big one. These are top 3, and then after that, it's no real priority. But let's talk about hidden calories. And what we mean by hidden calories these are things a lot of people take for granted. They kind of this can kind of fall under the overestimating, but let's talk about, and you mentioned it earlier, and I talked about this in a few podcasts, oils, nut butters, condiments. These are things that people include into their diet or their nutrition on a daily basis that add up. So for example, I mentioned Chick-fil-A before. And in college, I used to go ham on Chick-fil-A. We had like a student discount, so I would go all the time. And I would get, the number 1 chicken, let's not get into it. So anyways, I would get that meal. And then one day when I was learning about calories and learning about tracking, I looked up the contents of a Chick-fil-A sauce, right? And this is just, what's about 2 tablespoons, right? And those, so I believe it's 2 tablespoons.
Yeah.
It was 150 calories for that sauce. And how often are you only using one sauce?
Might be 1 tablespoon because that container's like thin.
It might be, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 tablespoons.
But you know the sauce of
the Chick-fil-A sauce.
the size.
It doesn't matter if it's Chick-fil-A, McDonald's. It doesn't matter. The sauce. Pay attention to the calorie content, or the content of that sauce. Even with the sugar, sodium, all those things that is included, because that's where a lot of people mess up. So let's say you ordered, some Chick-fil-A and you slam 3 sauces. That is 450 calories that you've added to your nutrition.
And majority of the time, that's pure fat.
Fat.
There's fat and sugars.
Pure fat. You can mayo, ketchup, the sugar in ketchup. A big one, especially as far as sugar, barbecue sauce.
My fave. I think Sweet Baby Ray's.
Oh my!
I want to say is like 17 grams of sugar or something insane. And let me just say,
it's called Sweet Baby Ray's for a reason.
Let's say you get a 3-piece chicken tender. You need more than 1 sauce.
There's no way.
You're not using 1 sauce for 3 pieces.
You double
Absolutely
dipping
not.
that 1 chicken strip
in one
sauce. I know people who do at least 4 or 5 sauces. They ask for multiple sauces. So that's a huge one. Let's get into oils.
Oils and nut butters.
Oils and nut butters.
And those add up quickly because remember we said 9 calories per 1 gram of fat. So a little bit of fats, regardless of what they are, adds up quickly in terms of density and calories compared to fat or carbs and protein. So any fats, whether it's sauces, it's oils, it's nuts, it's nut butters, all of those things are going to add up more quickly in calories.
Yes.
This doesn't mean don't use oils or don't use nut butters. Just understand the portion sizes. Like having a handful of nuts is probably close to 400 calories, depending on the nut, just because it is more dense. In terms
these are
of
calorie dense things, right? So doesn't seem like much, right? A tablespoon. Is it a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons? About
2 tablespoons is 16 grams of fat in nut butter. So 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, you got 16 grams of fat.
Insane.
And it's, again, almond butter. It's great for you. They're most healthy fats are great in omegas. They're great in fats that your body needs. So you should be incorporating fats, avocados, olive oil, all of those things. Great things to include, but understand the portion size of them, especially if you're conscious of your calories, that it's going to add up quickly in fats and in calories when it compared to carbs or fats.
And we're not saying don't eat it, but just be conscious of the calorie content. Because if you love PB&Js, most cases you might be putting more than 2 tablespoons, depending on how big your bread is.
For a good peanut butter and jelly.
For the one I like to eat, it's a little bit more than a couple tablespoons. So sort of keep that in mind. And also to add to one of the common mistakes I made coming up, I used to think peanut butter was a protein, like majority protein. So, and
I guarantee you, someone else listening to this thinks it is too, because I thought that that is such a common thing, so common.
Yeah, but I don't even know the exact amount of protein that's in peanut butter. I think maybe like 4 or 5 grams. Yeah, 4 or 5 grams. But yes, it does have protein, but in it. When you're looking at the ratios, right? Let's talk about the ratio of macros. There are 4 grams of protein to 16 grams of fat. Right. So for every 2 tablespoons, let's say you eat 4 tablespoons of peanut butter for the day, that's only 8 grams of protein, but 32 grams of fat. Right. So it's not even worth it in the sense of eating it for protein. You're better off eating some lean proteins, chicken breasts, all down the line to
if
help
your goal is to get
in more protein. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you thought peanut butter was a protein, that alone might change your goals.
Yeah.
Literally
I remember that goes along with my cinnamon toast crunch where 100%. And that was my excuse for eating peanut butter and jelly. Good protein. I was wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong. All right, so what's the next one? So we talk about over under missing.
Let me start this next one.
Toya is licking her chops on this one.
This one, because I made this for a long time. So again, for those that don't know, I did bikini bodybuilding many moons ago, and I did 3 shows. And my first show, I started following all these other bodybuilders and like, what do they do? And like, prep is hard, you guys. Like, it's insane. And we'll do another podcast about that.
Discipline.
It is extreme. It's extreme. Again, we'll talk about it in another podcast. There's so much I could say, but one of the things that was very common was 0-calorie foods, not just drinks.
Yeah.
And because when you're doing a prep, you are in a very restrictive caloric diet, like extreme, everything is measured. And so this 0-calorie brand, I'm not going to say the brand. If you know the brand, you know the brand.
You know.
But they had 0-calorie peanut butter.
That's insane.
0-calorie syrup. 0-calorie jelly.
Oh, is this all one brand?
Oh, this is a brand. 0-calorie salad dressings. Any salad dressing you could think of. Ranch, French, Italian. How do you make 0-calorie Thousand Island?
First of all, Thousand Island, if you don't know, if you're a Thousand Island lover or the McDonald's secret sauce lover, that is pure 90% fat.
Pure fat.
So the fact that they made that 0 calories
peanut butter
is a red flag.
We just talked about peanut
red
butter.
Flag.
0-calorie peanut butter. So what I'm getting at is these foods, while tempting because you're getting 0 calories, first of all, they don't taste good. You might be like, oh, like it tastes good because you can have anything you want.
Yeah.
But because you're restricting yourself from a certain food, you might trick yourself into thinking it tastes good. Listen, we tried all kinds of things, made all kinds of concoctions. But looking at it now, what was I putting in my body? Because
and that's the question you need to ask.
Extremely inflammatory, extremely high in sodium, and looking at what it was made of, I didn't care. It was 0 calories, right? And so at that time, I was just like, I can have it because it's not adding extra calories to this diet that I'm doing, right? And so because it's 0 calories, you might think like, well, how is that going to hinder my goals? Sodium, inflammation of whatever it is that we are eating. The 0-calorie peanut butter had titanium dioxide in it.
Wait, say
titanium dioxide.
There's
I have
metal?
Here.
Read the.
I took a screenshot of this because I couldn't believe it. Like, it's insane.
And while she looks this up, if something says 0 calories, the first thing you need to ask yourself is like, all right, and especially if the normal version of it, let's say the normal version of that product is 150 calories. The first thing you need to ask is like, all right, yes, it's 0 calories, great, but what did they do to make it 0 calories? What did they add to it to fill in the place of those 150 calories. It didn't just disappear, right? They had to do something to it or add something to fill in those 150 calories to give you the same. And they always market it the same way, the same great taste.
Oh my goodness.
For 0 calories.
Yes.
But look at the ingredients, people. Look at the ingredients.
Because the same way, not all calories are equal, and the type of calories matter. The ingredients in these calories matter too.
Sure.
So,
what did it have?
The way that the peanut butter was made is they used peanut extract. There were no peanuts in this peanut butter.
And it'll say
whatsoever.
it sometimes on there. It'll say contains 0% peanuts.
Yeah.
Or it'll say 2% actual fruit.
Why
juice
was there
or whatever.
fruit and vegetable juice in peanut butter?
What is going on?
Corn fiber, titanium dioxide, canola lecithin. Never. I've heard of sunflower. Never heard of canola lecithin. One of the main ingredients. First of all, the first ingredient was water. And if you didn't know, the first ingredient is a main ingredient. Cellulose gel. First of all, if you're getting peanut butter and you want a good quality peanut butter, peanuts and salt.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
You can make peanut butter in your house.
Yes.
With just peanuts.
But if you're going to have one that's got a little more stuff in it, at max, maybe sugar.
A little sugar, that's it.
Like, don't get peanut butter that has cellulose gel. Like, that's, because to me, I would almost rather you have those calories because that at least will give you some fats that your body can absorb and use for something. I don't know how this broke down in my body and what it was doing, causing inflammation, that high sodium retention, like all of that. So all of that to say, if something says 0 calories, if it's a food that should have something and it was taken out, for example, can't believe this was real. Avocado is a fat. They had low fat avocados.
That's insane.
What is a avocado is a fat, and it's a good fat, and you need the fats. Don't take it out. Just eat less of it. It doesn't make sense. But if it should be a fat and it tells you it's not a fat, like he said, what did they do to make that not
ask yourself, like, what did they do? It's a filler. They had to replace something with something else. And the crazy part about it is a lot of times they replace real ingredients that your body can actually break down for titanium. Plastic, which is not meant for your body to break down. So keep that in mind. And when it comes to 0 calorie anything, in most cases, you're better off eating the regular, food, whether it's Coke Zeros. I wouldn't even go into Coke and all that stuff.
Yeah, we didn't mention drinks. A lot of the drinks, they're 0 calorie because of artificial sweeteners, and they will bloat you. So I had a client that was saying she stopped drinking it was a low or 0 calorie sparkling something. But she was like, I noticed I'm getting so gassy and bloated after drinking them. And it's just the artificial sweetener. So this is same for protein bars or anything that you're eating or drinking that has artificial sweeteners. I loved the specific protein bar, loved the way it tasted. But then at the end, I'd get that that artificial taste in my mouth, and then I would get bloated every single time. I had to stop eating them. And it's the artificial sweeteners. So we don't want to say like, check every ingredient label, and if you can't pronounce it, it's bad. No. That's not the case at all. There are things that I can't pronounce that are not going to do harm to your body, and it's okay to eat them, especially things in moderation, fine. But titanium dioxide.
I don't think I want metal in my peanut butter when it should just be peanuts and salt. But.
Yes. So that's a very good point. Look at the food you're eating. What should that food be?
For sure.
And if it's peanut butter and it's cellulose gel and titanium dioxide, you're probably better off eating the peanut butter.
Yeah.
So.
And this goes for no and low calorie as well.
Yeah.
Because they might even say low calorie and they're filling in things for that low calorie content with things that aren't necessarily natural to the body. So that's a good one. 0 calories. Just, again, we're not telling you not to eat it. Just be mindful of it. Just ask yourself, what is in it? If they're taking my calories away, then what are they filling it with? So good one. Next one this is a big one. I think this is a mentality that I think some people say it kind of just as a mentality or as a joke. But a lot of people take this sort of idea seriously. And that's what I call the burn it off mentality, right? So, for example, let's say, we're going out to dinner tonight with some friends, and let's say I want a steak. Let's say I haven't had a steak in a while. I want to have a steak with some buttery mashed potatoes and some garlic oiled up, green beans or whatever. I eat this meal and my mentality will say, I'll burn this off tomorrow, right? It's about 1,000 calories. I'll burn it off tomorrow, which is, I get it in a sense of being accountable, right? I get it in a sense of understanding like, all right, this isn't necessarily the best meal for me. Of course, I'm out, whatever, and I want to stay on track with my goals, and I want to be able to, go work out and be able to stay on track. I get that. But a lot of people really look at it as like, oh, I eat 500 calories. I'm going to go, like she mentioned before, get on the Stairmaster and not stop until I'm at 500 calories, right? And I think people have the mindset like, I just ate this 500 calorie burger, and after I finish the Stairmaster, that burger is gone, right? That's not how it works. That burger is still in your stomach. It's still being processed in your colon. And this is why I like to mention the quality of your food does matter, right? And we talked about this before, 500 calories of a very clean meal versus a 500 calories of a not so clean meal. People look at it as like, fair game, right? They look at it as like, these are on even levels. They're calories, 500 calories, 500 calories. But at the end of the day, your body has to break that down, right? Your body has to process what you put in it. And a lot of times it takes 2 or 3 days for your body to even process what you put in it. So you can't have the mentality that, oh, I ate 500 calories of this. I'm just going to burn this off and I'm good to go. I'm squared off, right? Yep. That's not the case, right? You have to look at it as the food that you put into your body, the quality of it does matter, right? The macro breakdown of it does matter. The ingredients, whether artificial or natural, does matter. Your body, regardless of how you view it, has to process that in a way which can benefit you or hurt you in a way as well. So,
and the calories you burn off can come from many different sources as well, depending on the exercise, your intensity level.
Sure.
It can come from carb stores. It can come from fat utilization. So again, there's no way that you're just consuming something and then going to burn it off.
Delete.
The thing that is possible is you can eat something like a quick carb, like the Gatorade during the workout, and it can supply your body with energy currently, but you're not burning off the calories of that. And the reason this is also important to mention is because the macros, and we probably should have mentioned this in point 2 with the macro breakdown, but the macros you eat break down differently in your body in terms of your metabolism working to break that down. So another reason that protein is so important too is your metabolism works a lot harder to break down protein, increasing your metabolism, so giving you a higher thermic effect of food when you eat that protein versus fat, which has a lower thermic effect of food. So this is another reason that prioritizing protein is important and why it can help speed up your metabolism as well. So this is another point why not all calories are created equal. They literally are not the same once you swallow. Once it's in there, shoot, even when it's in your mouth, really, like the saliva that it takes. But the burn it off mentality, I had that growing up, especially going into college when I was like, I want to exercise more, whatever. That was a mentality I had. And then I mentioned like looking at my watch to burn off those calories. This is also not accurate compared to what I ate, and so it's just not a good mentality because it doesn't work that way. However, you can say, I had a carb heavy meal. I'm going to go work out and put those carbs to use
some of that energy.
Use that energy to supply my muscles with. One of the best things you can do if you overate is get in a good lift because it will help you to utilize that muscle too.
You'd think of utilization and not necessarily burning it off, getting rid of it, deleting it from your body. That's not the case, right? So again, it's okay to have this mentality in a sense of accountability, but don't have it in a sense of like, this is how the body works. You eat and delete. That's not how it works. So this is a perfect segue. We're going to go into alcohol, right? And we're going to be very, very short with this just because there's really no way around it. I think a lot of people try their best. And we've mentioned this before, moderation is key, right? You can have things in moderation. Like we've had drinks at times, but again, we understand how, whether it's food or alcohol, understand how it makes you feel. Not in the moment, but after the fact, right? Does it give you, do you get hangovers? Does it make you feel sluggish the next day, right? At the end of the day, alcohol it's it's not good for you, right?
There's no way around it.
There's no way around it. It's not good for you. It causes inflammation. It's a detriment to your performance sometimes. And it's just empty calories. Like it's not built to help you in any sense, right? So if you're someone who struggles with managing your alcohol intake, especially in regards to just reaching your goals, in most cases, like cutting it out will make a huge difference. Like I know a lot of people who cut out drinking completely, and it wasn't because they just cut it out because they didn't want it anymore. I think they gave themselves the opportunity, and I mentioned this before, to really feel what it takes to not drink. Like give yourself maybe 6 to 8 weeks and understand how well it helps your performance, how well it helps you feel on a daily basis. And once you go some time without it, you really can understand and feel like the difference. Like, over the holidays, we had wine, just celebrating so much. Like we mentioned before, so much to celebrate, and you kind of get caught in the, the celebratory mindset, which is perfectly fine. But also understand that, which we do, we're very in tune with our bodies. We understand how it makes us feel. We felt sluggish. We felt bloated, right? All those different things come into place when alcohol is within your normal nutrition. So I would always say, give yourself, if you're someone who loves to have a drink now and then, again, moderation is key. I wouldn't say cut it out completely because that's not realistic. There are always going to be certain occasions where it's going to be present, where you want to be able to celebrate, and that's fine. But understand what it does to you, how it makes you feel. And at the end of the day, understand it's not going to help you, right? At the end of the day, it's not going to help you perform better. You're not going to work out a lot better because you drank alcohol, right? Yeah. It's not, in most cases, it's a detriment.
And it's empty calories going back to, and it breaks down differently. This is a whole different thing in terms of it breaking down. But it also, I think it's 7 to 9 calories per ounce or something. It also has calories in it, right? And so the more mixed drink you have, the more you're looking at more sugars, more empty calories. And then even if you just take a shot, you're still taking in calories, but that shot, even though it's less calories than a mixed drink, is that leading to you ordering a pizza later? Are you getting hungry? Is it help? So we noticed too, like if we, like a Friday night, if we went out to dinner and had wine, majority of the time the next day we changed what we were going to do for our workout because we didn't feel good. So then it starts messing with your goals and your performance and your program. So like he said, there's nothing it does good for your body. It might feel celebratory. We love having wine. Like it's, all of that is great. But if there's a point where we're really trying to hit a goal or like be consistent with the program, for us personally, it's easier for us to just cut it out because never has it made us perform better. And I think, and
I'm not sure on the exact science if someone knows this, but I read somewhere, and I mentioned this before too as well. It takes like alcohol like 72 to 96 hours to completely metabolize in your body. That's a whole week, right? So if you went crazy,
it's something like certain amount of hours per ounce.
Of alcohol.
That's
what it is. Yeah. And if you slamming drinks over the weekend, it could probably take up to a week for that to completely just sort of process throughout your system, right? So again, if your goal is to, and especially if you're putting yourself under a timetable, if you're following a program that's 8 weeks long and you want to be at a certain point in those 8 weeks, think about that. Processing that alcohol is going to hinder you, not only your performance, your recovery, your sleep. I know sometimes when I drink, sometimes I feel like I can't get in the proper amount of sleep, and all that plays a role into how quickly you're going to reach that goal. So again, we will never say cut out this, stop drinking that, but understand, yes, moderation is key, but alcohol is one of those non-negotiables where it's one of those things where, you can eat a hamburger. There's still things within a hamburger that your body can utilize, right? The carbs of the bread, the protein from the meat, right? But when it comes to alcohol, your body can't use that in any way that's going to help you. You see what I'm saying? So keep that in mind. That I'm gonna skip ahead. Let's go into hydration since we're talking about alcohol.
Oh, this is another quick one.
Let's talk about it.
Hydration is one of the best things you can do for your body because your body is literally made up of mostly water.
Keep some water on.
And hydration directly affects your recovery. It affects your metabolism. It helps you when you're lifting. It helps your energy levels. There is so much that affects your hydration to the point where I've had clients literally begin drinking more water and they're like, oh, I feel leaner. you probably lost some water retention because hydration also helps you to deplete water,
Yes.
which sounds backwards. So many times people, and maybe you've made this mistake before, will say, I'm bloated. I don't want to drink more water because I don't want to retain more water. You're making yourself more bloated. So a good way to get rid of bloating is to drink more water.
Isn't
and I
that
know
something?
it sounds backwards, but being hydrated, if you're dehydrated, systems in your body start to slow down. They can't work properly. So making sure you're hydrated, getting in, I mean, your body weight in ounces is a good goal to have, but I mean, try to get in, like start with a half a gallon and then work your way up to a gallon. The more active you are, the more you're depleting water, the more you're going to want to drink. And keep in mind electrolytes with that. If you're sweating a lot, you don't want to just drink water. You want to make sure you're getting in some good electrolytes as well. So it's really as simple as that. Like hydration can directly correlate with your body fat loss, your muscle gain, your energy, so many things.
Yeah, and just like we tell you to make protein the foundation of your nutrition, make water the foundation of your hydration. Because I also think a lot of people try to, again, make electrolytes or add electrolytes as a part of their count for how much they're hydrated. It's like, oh yeah, I had a client. He was like, oh yeah, I drank almost a gallon. I hydrated almost a gallon a day. I drank like, it was like 60 ounces of water, and the other 60 ounces was like Gatorade and vitamin water. It's not the same.
Not the same.
It's not the same. So
It's a lot of sugar in there.
Yeah, it's a lot of sugar. And again, we talked about that. So make water the foundation of your drinks throughout the day. If you find yourself drinking, a lot of coffees, a lot of, the matchas you make your Starbucks run, water needs to be near you and by you on a daily. We try to keep water. If you see us in the podcast, we always got some type of water with this toy.
Today I have electrolytes and water. You know why?
Yeah.
We'd had a very hard run.
We
needed
sweat.
Some electrolytes.
We sweat a lot, right? So water is very important. Your body is made up of water.
Yes.
So don't deplete your body of what it needs, it needs to function, right? You need your gas for your car, or in this day and age, you need electricity for your car. So don't deplete your body from what it needs.
Really, really quick, you mentioned Starbucks, and I forgot to say in the hidden calories that your coffees and your coffee creamer add up
Smoothies.
in calories. I had a client once who realized she was putting almost 200 calories of creamer in her coffee.
My God.
I know that sounds like a lot of calories. It's not a lot of creamer. It's not a lot of creamer. I promise you. Look, I think a serving size of creamer is a tablespoon that does nothing to your coffee, right?
Zero.
And so your Starbucks, your coffee runs in the morning, your lattes, your cappuccinos, pure sugar. So keep that in mind with any drinks that you're drinking that are not like, you can look at the back of a Gatorade bottle and see it, right? But if your coffee cup, it's just coffee cup, it's just coffee, right? But look at what is in it and what's making it. So on to the next, following a diet. This is point 8. We're almost done, I promise. But if you're following diets consistently, fad diets, or hopping on a new meal plan, that can be a huge mistake because one, that may not be the diet for you. Again, we talked about how macro breakdown is important and it's different for everyone. But two, a lot of times it's usually restricting you from something that you need.
Say it again. I don't think they heard
Usually a diet is restricting you from something that you need or just it's restrictive in general. I don't think anything restrictive will last long term ever.
Yeah.
And it's not sustainable.
No.
It is not sustainable. Anything that's restricting you is not sustainable. And a lot of times it's not good for you.
Yeah.
It's not good for you.
Yeah.
Let's just take, for example, keto. It works for a lot of people because you are depleting your body of carbs. Carbs retain more water than fat and protein. So when you cut that out, of course you're losing water weight at the beginning, right? And keto was made for different metabolic diseases, type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistant. There are times that you need to be on keto. There are times that you need to follow a specific diet. Usually that is ordered by a doctor and there is a specific reason. For example, when my mom first got her colostomy bag, there were so many things she couldn't eat because I think it was a stoma is what it was called. They couldn't digest that.
Yeah.
They literally took majority of her colon.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that she couldn't digest at first, and it was a very hard diet at first, and she lost a lot of weight. Should you follow that same diet because she lost weight on it? And so there are a lot of diets that you'll lose some weight. But what happens when you start eating fruit again?
Yeah.
Fruit is a carb, by the way.
With water.
What happens when you start eating broccoli again, which is a carb, by the way?
Yeah.
So what happens when you start putting these things back in? Let's say there was a diet that took all protein out.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is
My God.
not sustainable because you literally need protein for your muscles and your body, and so anything that restricts or takes something out that you need, it's not good for your body. It's restrictive and it's not going to last. And then you jump from diet to diet to diet, and the minute something's not working anymore, you follow something else. Your body is just going through all of these different processes, and it can't adjust to anything.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's what I was going to mention, like the adjustment part. Like your body has to. And I'm sorry, I wanted to go back to water and just in a sense of acclimation. So I know a lot of you ask, like, how much water should I be drinking? But understand that you have to give your body time to acclimate. Because I know a lot of people, especially during the challenge, they were like, oh, it's so hard to drink a gallon of water. I'm peeing.
Go to the bathroom a lot.
I'm peeing every 30 seconds. I get it. But your body has to get acclimated to the amount of water that it's getting on an hourly or, every minute, really. Same thing with diets. Like, we don't recommend diets ever to anybody. A lot of people, especially on YouTube, ask us like, "Oh, what do you think? What do you think about this diet?" And we always say, like, unless you are recommended a diet based on a certain condition that you have or limitations that you have within nutrition, we don't ever recommend a diet. And look at it like this: if it's something that you can't follow forever, right? If it's something that's not sustainable for your body to be efficient with forever, we will never recommend it, right? That's why we always preach intuitive eating, because it's realistic, right? You can understand what's in your food. You can understand the portion sizes.
You need carbs.
If you need carbs,
fat,
if you need
proteins.
energy, right? You can supply yourself with that and understand what your body needs. And it's not a limiting factor. You're not limiting yourself on what you can be eating, because that's not realistic, right? So we always try to preach, whether it's with our workouts, nutrition, whatever, what's realistic? What can you follow for the rest of your life? If you're following a certain diet and you're sacrificing every day and you feel like, I got to cut this out. If you feel like you can't follow that forever, then it's not sustainable, right? And sustainability is the key to reaching any goal. And a lot of times, most people's goals is long-term anyway. So if you can't follow that long-term, then it's not even worth it. And you might as well eat in a way that's sustainable to you and your body.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's a big one. The last two we got.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I think do number 10 and then end with number 9.
I was going to say, okay, go ahead. Do your thing.
So this one is another quick one, and it kind of falls in line with the 0-calorie one. Meat alternatives or any food alternatives. And this one is big because it kind of goes in line again with ingredients, but also sodium. And a lot of clients that we've had that were vegan, they always complained of like puffiness or like, I went vegan and I'm not losing any weight. And I think sometimes people can associate like going vegan with losing weight, right? Like, I went vegan to be healthier or lose weight. And then they start incorporating a lot of like alternative foods that are filled with fillers and sodium and things like that, and they feel worse. And a lot of times it's not because you went vegan, because there's a way to go vegan and getting great food and nutrients and you feel better. But we made the mistake of adding in a ton of meat alternative foods, and again, I could probably pull those ingredients up and just like, wow, you know, it is insane how much fillers and things are in there that of course are going to leave you feeling bloated and feeling not your best. So a lot of times just kind of looking, again, this kind of falls with the 0 calories, looking at like if you're taking something out to feel better and you're adding it in with something artificial, you may likely not feel better doing those things. So you might feel worse. And it's not because of like, oh, you went vegan. It's just the things that you might be replacing certain things with. So sometimes keep that in mind if you are making dietary changes for whatever reason. It
Yeah.
could be a health reason, a personal reason. If you're making any type of dietary changes, if you're saying, I don't want to eat dairy anymore for whatever reason, and you're putting in like fake cheeses or cheese alternatives that are filled with a lot of fillers. Again, sometimes having the cheese would have been better. So meat alternatives, cheese like all alternative foods.
Yeah.
Make sure you're looking at the ingredients, the sodium, the sugar content,
especially especially the impossible meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's telling you it's impossible, what makes it so impossible?
What makes it impossible?
What is in it that makes it so impossible that is so comparable to like a regular beef patty, right? So just, again, that's a big one to keep in mind. Understand, we always say this before, if you want to change up your nutrition, whether it's going vegan or following a specific way of eating, understand why are you doing it. And if your main reason is to lose weight, I guarantee you it's probably something that's not sustainable, and you're better off just eating clean the way you were in a fashion that you were before. You know what I mean? So cool. Last but not least, this is more of a tip that we mentioned in the past podcast. Number 10, preparation is key.
Absolutely.
And we say this because, we have a lot of hardworking people, especially people we know we've been working with on the app who, they have normal jobs. They have to go into the office. Time is limited. And especially, we have a lot of parents, people who have kids or people who they have to care for, a lot of people, to where it's so easy for time to get away from you and you're not prepared. You might be great at getting in your workouts in the morning, and which we find that a lot of people have no issue doing, which is great. We created a community and a way for people to effectively get in their workouts. But when it comes to nutrition, a lot of people don't set themselves up for success. So if you find yourself that you're someone you go into the office every day, bring your lunch versus trying to eat out. Number one, you're going to save some money.
Yes.
But number two, bringing in your own lunch does a lot of different things. Number one, you can account for the protein that you need within that meal. So you can pack that and have that ready to go, especially if you had in a solid workout in the morning, right? Or if you, one thing that Toya likes to do sometimes, especially for breakfast, she likes to prep egg muffins, which are a great source of protein. Or boiled eggs. Just have that in the fridge already ready for me. If you're like to get in your workout in the early morning, you already have that prep for you. You can have that easy 20 grams of protein. You can whip up a shake with it and have some protein available for you. So the best, you can be prepared throughout today. And there's a lot of different ways to be prepared. You can bring your lunch. I know some people bring dinners to work sometimes, especially if you have to work late. Having that preparation is key. But also one thing that we like to do too, just have an idea of what you want to eat, right? So we have a calendar within in our kitchen right now that says everything that we're eating for dinner, which is a meal that kind of gets away from us on a weekly basis. We know what we're eating. We're prepped the day before. Toya will be like, all right, we're eating taco bowls. Let's pull out some ground turkey meat from the freezer. Now we're prepared. We got that already in the freezer. You don't want that to go bad. So you're more likely to prep that food than to order out, right? You're going to see that. I know some people still see that in the fridge and still order out. But you're more likely to stay on track with your nutrition when you're prepared.
And another thing, too, is if you are someone who is kind of tracking your macros and things like that, if you already know what you're having for dinner, kind of sets up the rest of your day. And understanding like, okay, I know I'm going to get 40 grams of protein for dinner. Let me make sure I get in the rest during the day. Or if you know there's a meal where you're not going to get in a lot of protein for dinner, then you know you need to get in the protein throughout the day. Sure. So that's another common mistake, is just not being prepared. And another thing you can do, one last thing, especially we're in LA where food is social. Like everything is, let's meet for dinner, let's meet for lunch, let's meet for drinks. If you know you're going to go somewhere, take a look at the menu ahead of time and see, like, if you are trying to stay on track, see the options that you have, before you go, and kind of plan your day around that as well. So, that's pretty much it. Those are 10 common things that either we have done that we felt were important to share, or things that we get asked a lot. Like, I think, like I said, the first 3 were very common in terms of like, help, I'm tracking and, it's not going right. And then we're like, oh, are you weighing? And they're like, no, I'm eyeballing, or I'm using a measuring cup. So that's usually number 1 that is very so common. And then the rest are things, that we've been asked here and there, or again, things that we've personally done that now I'm like,
Yeah, let's do a quick overview of them just in case you missed some. So these are all 10. Write them down, and maybe we'll include them in the show notes. But number 1, under and overestimating your food intake. Very important. Understand your portion sizes, how much you're putting into your body, how much the calorie contents of the food that you're putting into your body. Number 2, once you understand that, understand the macro breakdown. The macro makes a big difference, especially if you're tracking your calories. That can be what cracks the code for you, is understanding macros and how much your body needs on any given basis, and especially based on your goals. Number 3, hidden calories, the oils, the nut butters, the
lattes,
the
cappuccinos.
cappuccinos, those custom orders at Starbucks. Understand that those are the little things that can add up a lot throughout the day. Number 4,
run away from 0-calorie foods.
Yes,
That's
0 calories. If
they don't taste good.
Ask yourself the question: if it's 0 calories, understand. All right, what they put in it, understand the ingredients of everything in it.
Yes.
Number 5, the burn it off mentality. You heard it. It don't work like that. Number 6, alcohol consumption. Right, in most cases, and 99% of the time, it is a detriment to your body. So the best you can cut that out, the more you'll perform better, you'll recover better, and you're more likely to reach your goals in the fashion that you want to reach them in, which for most people, we need that instant gratification, which is fast.
Yep.
All right. Number 7, following a diet, right? We don't recommend following a diet unless it's instructed to you by your doctor. If not, we recommend understanding. Again, you can track your calories to understand and educate yourself on what has what, but also eating
as
intuitive as possible to make sure that you're, reaching your goals in a way that's sustainable over time, long term, right? Next, hydration. Hydration is key. Make sure you're getting in your water. It will be an adjustment, especially if you're not used to getting in amount of water that you need to get in on a daily basis. But once you get acclimated, you'll feel the effects. You'll feel a lot more energetic. You'll have a lot more energy for your workouts, and you just feel better in general because your body has the water that it needs to function. Number 9, meat alternatives, fillers. Like, that's bottom line. It's
any alternative
meat.
All
they're
the
coming
stuff.
out, man. Look, they're getting creative. These companies are getting
avocados.
Look, chips. Like, you can go with snacks. There's so many different alternatives. Just understand at the bottom line, understand those ingredients and what's in it. And last but not least, prepare yourself. As prepared as you can be on a daily basis to make sure that your nutrition is on track. You're going to be set for life.
Cool.
All right. So
That's
those are
it.
our 10. Hopefully you learned a lot from these. Again, these are common mistakes that we get from a lot of people. We get questions every day. So if anyone asks, any of the questions or any of the things that we brought up in this podcast today, send them this podcast and let them know, take a listen to this, and you'll probably understand nutrition a lot more for what your body needs. So with that being said, we got a few minutes left. Let's do a dad joke.
I got a dad joke today.
Oh,
I got one.
I got one. Oh, snap.
Okay.
It's a great day when Toya got a dad joke.
Why don't eggs tell each other jokes?
You and these egg jokes.
I love eggs.
Why don't eggs tell each other jokes? Because they shell. No. I feel like I'm there. They're
5.
They're shellfish. They're.
It's not a shellfish.
I know. Well, like they're like
they would crack each other up. We can't tell jokes. They would crack each other up, and then the eggs would crack.
That's good. That's good. Crack each other up is good. All right, I gotta read mine so I don't mess it up.
Okay.
Why did the clock malfunction when he got hungry?
I should know this.
Yeah. No. Why did the malfunctioning clock? No, that's stupid.
All right.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Next.
What did the clock do when he got hungry? That's the question. What did the clock do when he got hungry?
Dinged and said, "I need food." That's what I would do.
That's your answer?
Yeah.
No, he went back 4 seconds. He went back 4 seconds. He went back for seconds.
I get it. Wow.
But he went back 4 seconds.
But 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why he was malfunctioning.
I'm malfunctioning because I'm hungry.
It's lunchtime here in the Juice and Toya studio. But anyways, we appreciate all of you for not only listening to our terrible dad jokes, but also really just soaking in the information that we're trying to give you. Again, we're trying to simplify fitness, but at the same time, give you the real Like, we're not trying to sugarcoat anything. I'm sorry.
I
don't
was
know.
wondering.
My phone's
I thought I
going
was
off.
tripping. Yeah.
Sorry. But we're not trying to sugarcoat anything. Again, at the end of the day, we're doing this to help you. We care about all of you. If you're listening to this podcast, we care about you, and we want to fast track you through all the BS that you see on social media. And again, there's a lot of good stuff, but we're trying to filter it to where you understand the importance of what your body needs for you, right? So we appreciate you.
We hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this, leave us a comment.
Please.
Let us know more episodes that you would like to see. If you're listening, please leave us a rating. Check out the Check out the show notes for all of the important things that we mentioned in terms of like the program and the housekeeping stuff.
Get your merch.
Get your merch, get your programs, all the fun stuff. But again, thank you for joining us. Go check out all the rest of our episodes. Always let us know what you want to see.
Subscribe,
all the fun stuff. And we'll see you all at the next one.